So this is my new axle. It's built by RIX Engineering. It's got the latest spec tubes, T45 material instead of CDS. So I think it's about 3mm thinner on the wall of the steel, and it's lighter and stronger. Supposedly you don't need to run an alloy brace across the back with this. However, I'll still stick mine on, but it's supposed to be lighter and stronger, and when you weld it, it's supposed to stay straighter. So obviously when you heat things up, they tend to move a bit. So I've just mocked this up on the car. I've welded my caliper brackets and my damper brackets on both sides. So this is ready to go for powder coating now. It's got the heavy duty diamond brackets with the 1/2 inch holes, extra wide and thick. So the only reason I've gone for a new casing is because of the arches now. The old one was too narrow, so I've got I think it's a wide one. It says on top the width actually, 56 1/8. Should be a better job. Another thing I've done is, you can see my damper brackets aren't in the center of the axle, they're rotated forward slightly, and the reason for that is with the Beckett technology gearbox, it's to get it fitted in the car, it's pointing downhill. The flange on the back of the gearbox is pointing downhill about 5 degrees. So when I mocked this up on the car, I used the digital gauge and set the pig's head to point uphill 5 degrees, and then welded the brackets on to suit that. So should stop any unwanted vibrations in the prop shaft, because I was getting a bit of that, and I think it was because the old axle was mounted straight and the gearbox is pointing downhill, so the prop shaft wasn't really running true. I've also got these extra brackets on the front. They're for a toe correction kit. So you have a rose jointed bar that goes to a clamp that goes around the end of the pig's head there. A lot of people use that to set the toe of the axle, but I just want it to hold it straight really. I'll set it to probably toe in 1mm each side, but I just want to hold it straight because my old axle had a tendency to move from time to time. You'd put the tracking gauges on it after a rally and it'd be different to when you started it. So yeah, hopefully that'll stop that. Oh yeah, my lamp pod's finished now too. Quite happy with how that's turned out. Got 2 plugs on there, and then the wiring runs down. Also, my modular suspension has arrived. I've got all that chucked on loosely. Had to change the rack ends for left-hand thread, fine, I think the UNF thread or something on there for those in situ adjusters. Could be the strongest looking steering arms I've ever seen. Just waiting for the Raiger dampers now to arrive. And I've got their, the compression struts are solid, they're not the in situ adjustable ones. I've actually had the in situ adjustable type come loose before on a rally, don't really like them. Bit of a pain in the arse, so I've gone for, you can get them to make these compression struts at any length you want really. I think these are 1/2 inch bigger than standard, so it should give me the right caster angle that I need. Obviously there is some adjustment on the rose joint anyway, probably a good 1/2 inch or so, maybe an inch. It definitely looks the part. They use a bigger rose joint that end than normal as well. It's a 5/8 rose joint, so it's better. Something to do with the angles of how it, probably can't turn it now. The angles that it goes through the rotation of the, as the suspension goes up and down. It's supposed to be stronger somehow, I don't really know, but quite happy with that anyway. Hub and the brake all on this side. Just got a ratchet strap holding it up at the moment. So the hubs use bigger bearings as well, obviously, because the stub axle is bigger. So it's tonight's job. We're just going to get the bearings fitted in this other hub and get that fitted. And then I'm just waiting for the axle to come back really. Got my axle back. It's all powder coated, diff fitted, got a brand new gripper diff, crown wheel pinions all set up, and I got this toe correction kit. So new bearings and seals there for the hubs. So I've got all the old ones out and they're cleaned up. So I'm going to get the bearings fitted now, get the hubs on, and start building this back up. Alright, this is where we're up to so far. So I've got all the new bearings fitted, hubs are on, put the dirt shields back on behind. These are the same ones that I had on the solid discs, and obviously slightly too small. They pretty much used to touch the disc before, so there is a slight gap now. But it's obviously better than not having anything on there. It stops the stones and water and stuff hitting the bearings. Brand new discs. These are Peugeot 406 discs. Martin Jones that fitted the diff for me and arranged the whole build. He machined the discs for me to take the centres out so that you could fit the hub seals through, and drilled the bolt holes out to suit the back of the Group 4 studs. So these are the brakes that I bought. These are vented brakes off the front of a Fiesta or a Puma. And I paid about 30 quid for a second-hand set with the carriers, and then you can get brand new calipers, remanufactured calipers for £30 each as well. So that's what I've done, and I've got some Mintex competition pads there from Questmead. I just refurbed and painted the carriers there. I've only used gold because it's the only colour I had left. So let's get all these brakes on the axle now. There we go, brakes all done. Pretty big old calipers. I think the only downside to these really is they are quite heavy, they're cast, so they do hold the heat a little bit more as well, but I'm hoping with the vented discs they should run cooler anyway. This whole setup was really cheap. The discs were 50 quid. The original brake calipers that I bought to get the carriers were I'm sure they were about 35 quid. The brand new calipers are about £30 each. The brake pads are about £80. So it was a cheap setup really. The weld-on brackets are the same for all Ford calipers, whether it's XR3, Cosworth, Sierra, they're all the same, 89mm between the bolt centres. I've also fitted my toe correction kit now. It's quite simple really. It's got a left-hand thread boss on one end and a right-hand thread the other end. You just cut the bars to length and weld them together really. I've set this up now. I've bolted wheels on. I've used some spacers there to replicate the drive flanges because I don't have drive shafts yet. Put the wheels on and put the tracking gauges on, and I've set this now. Actually, the axle wasn't exactly straight before. It was toeing out about 1mm on one side and toeing in 1mm on the other side. So I had to push one side out and pull one side in, and it's 1mm each side now. So should do the job. That just need to take these back off and paint them now. So I just need to put the rear brace and the rear cover on now. There it is. Right, we just need brake pipes on now. There we go. Complete axle. Minus the drive shafts because I haven't bought any yet. Just need to paint those, but today is Boxing Day and nowhere is open to buy any paint, so get that done next week. Alright then, axle's on the car now. I've just finished making this new exhaust. It's bigger bore. The old one was 2¼ inch, this new one's 2½, and I've got two free-flowing silencers in it rather than the one big restrictive one. So it should be a little bit louder and be a bit more free-flowing. So I'll get this on the car now and see what it sounds like. There we go. So I had to change the end of the collector on the manifold on the downpipe to a 2½ inch, and redid all of this. When the axle's jacked up to the bump stops, there's currently no springs in there. There's just enough clearance on the exhaust there. You can get about a finger's width in between, so we shouldn't have any issues with squashing the exhaust. That's the issue you get with these toe correction kits, obviously, because when that's jacked up, it's going to be, if it wasn't for the exhaust tunnel that I've fitted there, the exhaust would be about 2 or 3 inches lower, so it would get squashed by the toe correction bars.